40.
Hi, I'm Jocelyn from Los 40 Chile. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Well, here we are talking about your new album, Paradise State of Mind, that came a few weeks ago. So, the first of all, I want to know the press release says that you wanted to say hope is the center of everything, is the center of this album, the concept, and a lot of that. How was the process to achieve what you are looking for?
Oh man, it's a good question. I think, music, I love to write optimistic music, like the feeling of the music. I love the feeling of joy. And I think that, reflecting on the world and kind of what it's felt like the last few years, it felt important for me to write something that reminded me of the beauty in the world, the wonder, because I think it's so easy to get focused on the fear, and hope is such a great weapon against fear. When we're hopeful, it's like everything else, all the things, because fear is one of those funny things that pretends like it's bigger than it really is. And when
Mhm.
you kind of turn on the light, it disappears. And music is such a beautiful medium of art to kind of cut straight to the heart,
Yeah.
and remind us that there's joy, there's things beyond um, what we can see, that uh, it's that are full of beauty. So that's what I really wanted to focus on with this record.
That is something that it's not only reflects in the lyrics of the songs, it's also reflects in the sound, is the music, the instruments. You have a lot of the 80s, the 70s. You can feel it a lot, for example, in Lost in the Space. I want to know which artist or songs maybe served you like an inspiration for this new album.
Mm. Oh man, there's so many. I mean, the 70s I feel like was such a ripe like time of music where there was a lot of creativity happening. There was, kind of the birth. There was like kind of disco leading into disco funk, leading into, there was punk and then post-punk, analog instruments, then going into synthesized music. So like Parliament Funkadelic, Prince, Giorgio Moroder, David Bowie, Nile Rodgers, the early days of Chic, and then like Tom Tom Club, the Bee Gees, Patrice Rushen, um, ABBA. Like there are so
I
many.
feel a lot of that actually. A lot of like Bee Gees and ABBA. It's great. It's like I feel like it's an inspiration, but it's not like that. That like that. It's something like you refresh the sound.
Oh, thank you. I mean, yeah, I didn't want to make something derivative. It's like
Mm.
that stuff was made 50 years ago, but it felt like, history repeats itself. And
Mhm.
what's interesting about the 70s is that the a lot of that music that was coming out of the US, at least, a lot of we were coming out of the Vietnam War. The
Okay.
economy was in a recession, and there's a lot of fear in the air, but then you listen to the music and it was joy. And I was talking to Nile Rodgers about this because I played him some music before we went in to record the record, and he was telling me about the early days of Chic. And when he was creating Chic, he was listening to music coming from the Great Depression era, from the 20s and 30s, and he was pulling ideas and concepts and lyrics directly from that and applying it to Chic because history in the 70s was repeating from the 20s. But now here we are 50 years later, in some ways repeating history from the 70s with the fear and the economy, the world economy. And I feel like artists have an important duty in society because they help interpret life and make people not alone. And that's what I needed that because coming out of the pandemic, it was so isolating that to connect to like I just wanted to connect with people. And so first I had to connect with myself. And then I had to connect with the divine, with my interpretation of God. And then through that, in the music, hopefully connect with other people. And so that was kind of the intention. It was a very simple intention. Um, Simple intention, hard to execute.
But it's something that we really need because it's like the same when we talk about love yourself and things like that, that you need to know myself, know yourself, and then you can put that into the world. In this case, you can put it into the music.
Well, it's funny, I think like art, when you think about what it is to grow and to grow older, it's like inside of us, we're all children. And over time, what really makes us into adults is like life experience and pain shapes us it makes us stronger, but then it also makes us put up walls and we start to hide the things inside of us. When you look at kids playing on a playground, they just love each other. They're
Yes.
very simple. They're not thinking about their differences. They don't think about race. They don't think about sex. They just want to connect and play. And the thing about, I think, music, that part of me that's making music, when it's happening from the right place, it feels like the little kid that is expressing honestly and authentically without fear of critic, without fear of being rejected. Um, and when I listen to music or see art that does that, it speaks to the little kid in me because it's like at the end of the day, we all just want to be loved and connect. And it's so easy to forget, as life gets complicated.
Yes, that's something that we always remind. So that's a good a good way to put it into the music. I like it. I can notice you put a lot of details, like for example, the cover of your disc, the cover of your album, which was painting by an artist called Matt Hansel. So I want to know if it's always you think about that, or maybe something that appears of nothing, or how do you go to Matt and ask him to do an artist cover?
So I've been a fan of Matt for about 8 years.
Mm.
A friend showed me his art like 8 years ago, and when I hadn't thought about the album cover for this record, and when it kind of came down to it like a light bulb went off. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna reach out to Matt and see if he would ever want to do it because he's like a fine artist. He puts on shows in galleries. He's a beautiful oil painter that does surrealist art, and I didn't think you never know with an artist like that if they would want to do an album cover because it's a completely different thing. And but he listened to the record and he loved it and it gave him a bunch of ideas. And so then we just started talking about what the record was about and all the different kind of imagery, which I think are already things that he kind of paints anyway, of like the conversation, like different dimensions, playing around with life and then what's on the other side of life. And so yeah, it was a really fun collaboration. And it was also important, kind of like the record was inspired by the 70s. A lot of my favorite album covers are from the 70s. And so looking at some of those collages where, or like Storm Thorgerson, who did like some of the Pink Floyd covers, or gosh, who else? Like some of the psychedelic art from that period, kind of the later psychedelic art, like we kind of looked at that and which created that central image, of kind of the head and on top of the Renaissance, kind of the new on top of the old, and then the light shooting through the diamond coming out of the top of the head, which to me is kind of probably the most powerful image that kind of represents the music,
Mhm.
because it's represents transformation, growth and transcending kind of
Yes.
through the tension that there is like this motion upwards to be like, okay, we can step out of that, and things aren't as they appear always.
Sure. Well, talking about the time, the presentation and everything, we know that you will be returned. You're going to return actually to Lollapalooza Chile 2025 next year. It has been 10 years since you've been here in Lollapalooza
Oh my.
in 2015. Do you remember something about Chile? Do you remember something about that show? Because you have a lot of shows, so I don't know if you remember something about us.
Oh man. Yeah, I mean, I can't believe it's been 10 years.
Yes,
So
it's been a
crazy.
long time. Actually, I remember that I saw you guys.
Wow.
Yes,
Yeah, no, we had a blast. I remember just
it
having
was
a
a
lot of
show
fun.
like it was early actually. I don't remember it was like 1 o'clock, something like that. It was early.
Wow. Um, I remember just having a lot of fun, coming down there and playing. And I feel like maybe that year, gosh, yeah, I think maybe it was like Smashing Pumpkins, maybe the Arctic Monkeys, uh,
Oh, Arctic Monkeys, I think.
Interpol, maybe.
Yes, yes.
Um, and
It was a really like rock lineup.
yeah, yeah. Oh, it's so fun, so fun. Best fans in the world. Yeah, we can't wait to come play again. And it's like it's when you play for an audience that gives their all and
Mhm.
is like expressive and free, it just makes us be more free on stage. So um, it's going to be really this new record live is it's been incredible to watch the record come to life on stage. Because you
Uh-huh.
never know, like when I'm making something in the studio, it's like I'm crafting the songs kind of in the studio, but then to me, songs are living, breathing things. And
Mhm.
so it's not like that's just one version of them, what we recorded. But when we play it live, they evolve and they change over time. And what the record sounds like live is better than the record, honestly. And so it's going to be really fun to tour it.
That's really it's a good thing because people actually doesn't know that one song that you put in on an album actually has maybe not always has more than one kind of music. Maybe at first it was sound like more rock, maybe then change the sound. It's a lot of process. And about the process, I want to know how do you feel Foster the People has changed in these 10 years? How do you feel maybe your grow like musically, personally?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I never try to repeat what I've done in the past musically. I always want to feel out of my comfort zone. This record was probably the deepest I've ever gone. Specifically with this record, incorporating jazz voicings throughout a lot of the record, was something that was new. Um, we recorded a double quartet on this record, so 8 string players, multiple horns, sax, flugelhorn, trumpet, flute. Um, and so I would say that this record was like 95% analog. It was like we wanted to kind of make it in that way, how they made music, when they were recording to tape. Um, and then and it's probably the most rhythmic record we've made. So like musically, it's pretty deep. It's tricky stuff. Even if it sounds simple at times, it's not once you get under the hood. And then personally, the reason I stepped away from music kind of in 2018 was because I needed to reflect. I needed to get healthy, which for me started with getting sober. And that kind of sent me on this internal spiritual journey. Um, and it was really good to kind of be able to, when you're touring all the time, every night's a party. And we were touring for about 10 years. And when I look at like, all these old rock stars that never stopped partying, and they're still living like they were in the 70s or 80s, like they're I don't want to be like that. I don't
No,
feel like that. Like that to me is the saddest thing ever because they're not growing. It's so easy to get stuck. And
yes,
so but artists, it's like we're meant to, there's an ebb and flow of life, you know. As we breathe out, we breathe in. All throughout the day, it's this like this give and this take. It's like the waves coming in and out. And so for me, it was kind of like taking a step back, reflecting on life, letting the well fill up again with ideas and concepts and joy and love and friendship and all these things. And then with this record, all of these things came out, and I tried to be as honest as possible with it. So I'm kind of, it feels like a new chapter of Foster the People. In some ways, it feels like the first chapter of a new life.
mhm.
Like, because I just feel like a new person, and so I'm excited to see what it all feels like as we kind of step back out into the world and connect with people again, because the world now compared to 6 years ago when we were last on tour, completely
Different.
changed,
Yes.
you know. But the beautiful thing is that humans internally never change. We all want the same things. We want to connect, we want to be loved, we want to feel seen, and so those things will never change. And that's like, to me, when everything gets complicated, it's just, you just keep it simple. And that's kind of like, yeah, that's what I want to bring to this live show. And when I meet people on tour and stuff, that's going to be, I think, the most rewarding thing for me, is just connecting with people.
We hope to do that the same here in Lollapalooza next year. Mark, thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you.
The last thing I want to ask you, if you can send a greeting from your fans from Los 40 Chile to hear, obviously, the new album from Foster the People, and also to follow you to Lollapalooza Chile 2025.
All right. Well, guys, Los 40 Chile, sending you lots of love. We can't wait to see you and play Paradise State of Mind for you, and a bunch of our previous catalog as well, and just connect together and have fun. It's going to be we're really looking forward to coming back down there. It's been too long. So we'll see you soon.